Oh, okay, yeah, that's even to get to Cornell was a hassle, obviously, and a struggle. Just African Americans, and I'm so concerned that we're losing the history of it
Yes,
because
yes,
younger people don't understand what it takes to keep,
man.
not just get it, but keep it. So,
Man, I'm excited right now because I have a very special guest, Denise, who is really the founder of the world's best connectors, which has a global reach. And I'm gonna let her do a quick introduction on what she's doing. But we're at the Better Business Bureau right now in Arizona, spending time, and I love what we're doing because at the end of the day, I want you to look at my background. Our work matters. And we got to really honor what we do because I think it's super important. Denise, give us a little bit of background on why you're here and why you're part of this show.
well, one, I'm thrilled to be here with you. It's very exciting. World's Best Connectors, that used to be my nickname, World's Best Connector, because I was accused of knowing everybody in Phoenix, which is not true. I have been here 30 years. What I tell people is that there weren't that many people to know when I got here. So yeah, I did used to know everyone. But it came about as I was obviously pretty successful on my own. I started the Black Chamber of Commerce here. I worked on getting the NFL stadium built, State Farm Stadium,
Wow.
et cetera, et cetera. But I was thinking, well, if I had a team, if I had a group, that we could maybe even accomplish more.
Absolutely.
And I've always been really good at partnerships. Again, starting the Black Chamber of Commerce, that was a challenge, as you can imagine, here in Arizona. But I was able to really get some incredible partnerships out of that. So I thought, World's Best Connectors, maybe we can do it again.
Well, first and foremost, again, I'm thankful that we're having this conversation because some of the stuff that you had to face, overcome, challenges, adversity, which is why we're having this conversation. As you know, I host University Through Adversity, which is a podcast show, which is really focusing on how do you overcome challenges when you face them, and that's big. And so let's just start from when you first started in the business realm and what you've been able to do. Talk about the climate and the culture that you faced while you were here in Arizona.
Okay. Here's Arizona. Luckily, I think God always puts the right person in the right place, okay? A lot of people would have been challenged and not been able to accomplish. But a little bit about my background. I grew up, I'm a Brooklyn girl, born in Brooklyn.
East Coast.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get excited.
I'm a Mets fan. Anyway, and so I grew up in New York City. Wanted to be a dancer, actually, because everyone wants to be on Broadway. And I'm, pretty ancient. So at that time, I found out they weren't hiring black people to be dancers on Broadway. So actually, I decided to go into science. My mom was a community organizer type. She was big in the Humane Society. So I liked animals. Always had a lot of pets. So I was going to be a veterinarian. So that was my next move since I wasn't going to be on Broadway. So I went to Cornell University, which was pretty earth-shattering at the time.
Well, and I want to go back because you going to Cornell in that time period says a lot. I mean, about your mental toughness. Let's take a moment just to talk about that. Not a lot, but I really want you to help educate those who are tuning in because I really want them to get a feel.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's even to get to Cornell was a hassle, obviously, and a struggle. Just African Americans, and I'm so concerned that we're losing the history of it.
Yes.
Younger people don't understand what it takes to keep, not just get it, but keep it. So, so growing up in New York City, great Eastern liberal place, right? I integrated junior high school and I integrated high school, all white schools, right? So I was pretty tough by the time I got to Cornell. And Cornell, you're thinking great Eastern liberal university.
Right.
And I got there and it was like, it was like 75 African Americans out of a class of 3,000.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So it wasn't much different from what I'd already been through.
Right. In middle school and high school.
Yeah. And so I was sort of prepared. Well, I was shocked, but sort of prepared for that. And even there was a lot of discouragement. I wound up not becoming a vet because it turned out they weren't really letting women be vets at that time.
Sure.
And I didn't think of that ahead of time because my parents were both very successful, so you sort of grew up in this atmosphere that you could do anything.
Yeah.
And they were both pioneers and ceiling breakers and
well, and
all of that.
I love what you're saying because you being in that environment and having your parents model, you thought the sky was the limit.
Yep.
And you know, I love that because the truth is our environment plays a major role on what we think is really possible.
Our
And let's-
aspirations.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
Go
talk
ahead.
about that for
Yeah.
a minute, because I'm sure
Yeah.
you got experiences to share.
Yeah. So yeah, my parents, they didn't see any obstacles. You could do anything. So I went to Cornell. My advisor there, finally, after the second year, I decided, well, there's no need staying pre-vet when you're not going to get in a vet. They were letting one woman a year in a vet school, and I knew it wasn't going to be me.
One woman a year. That's crazy.
And now and timing is everything, because now it's completely reversed. There's hardly any men in the vet school. But my advisor, he was pretty racist, sexist, everything else. Anyway, but the last straw, he said, well, he didn't understand why I was being pre-vet anyway, because black people don't know how to study.
Wow.
That was
wow. Now let's take a moment right there, because
He's the advisor.
Well, let me love on you. Let me love on you, because people don't understand. I spoke at a school earlier this morning. We were talking about the power of words, and especially if you're in a position of leadership, and then you really undermine and devalue people by what you say. And then I shared this with the students. Words last forever.
Yes.
People
I'm
try
still
to,
thinking about it.
Yeah,
all these years
So
later,
right. So you still in that process, and it's still showing back up in your memory. And so we got to be careful how we treat each other, because that's a big deal. Words carry so much weight. Sorry, I get fired up.
Good.
You know how I get.
Great.
I get going.
I love it. I love it. So literally got up and walked out, and in the hall there was another professor there, and he says, "Oh, can I help you?" And I go, "I'm looking for an advisor." He says, "Well, why don't you come talk to me?" And it turned out he was a wildlife biologist.
Gotcha.
There were no women in wildlife biology, but they didn't care.
Right.
Okay.
So they weren't limiting the opportunities. They weren't discriminating. None of that stuff was happening. It was just like, if you want to come, then we got you, and let us support you in this process.
Yeah, it was a new field. It was very exciting. And so, believe it or not, 3 women that got the wildlife degrees, 2 of them were African American.
Yes. Okay.
The first 3 women to get those degrees. So I graduated from that. 2 weeks later, believe it or not, I was working for the federal government. Not too many things you can do as a wildlife biologist, but you can work for a zoo or state or federal government. So I was in federal government in Las Vegas. So the rest of my history is pretty much breaking barriers, because when I was hired by the Bureau of Land Management, federal agency, I was the first professional woman they'd ever hired.
Well, I want to say 2 things, Denise, that really attracted me to you and attracted me to your spirit. You're currently and you're still breaking barriers right now. And people don't understand, like you said before, the history of where we have emerged from, and it's going to sound crazy, and where we're getting ready to be. Because people don't understand, you have to visualize what you want to see unfold. So let's talk a little bit about how you continue to break barriers, and then talk about what you're currently doing and what you see happening in the future.
Yeah. So continuing, I've been the first everything. I'm always first everything. So again, being the first woman in that organization, I was the first woman district manager, first deputy director, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
I wound up being deputy director of the entire agency in the Clinton administration.
Wow. Wow.
So, which is really like the head person, because
Sure.
there's a political appointee above that, and they don't really do it. So it was
right. You were helping lead, but you weren't getting credit for what you were doing.
You were, sort of the COO.
No, I got you.
Which was fine with me. So, because I did have opportunities, obviously, to be a political person, but I didn't, because I thought keeping the career stuff was important. And so I had 10,000 employees, 200 offices, $1 billion budget.
Wow.
And I did that for a few years. It was fun, because what you could change. Just a quick story I tell about getting that position. Clinton, he was big on diversity and whatever. Anyway, so he had selected a Latino man to be the political head.
Sure.
And that was like earth-shattering, revolutionary. And then, of course, he picks me, and 11 of the 12 regional directors left.
Wow.
Okay, they're retired or went on or whatever.
Sure.
And I got calls like, well, I guess this means things aren't going to change back the way they were. And I go, no. So But people don't realize sometimes the impact of that left me with 11 leadership positions.
Sure.
11 of the 12 top leadership
Sure,
positions.
sure.
So guess what? By the time I left, half of those positions were women or people of color.
Well, and I want to say this, and I love our conversation, Denise, because it's so relevant. Like, one of the things that has happened historically is if you take away opportunities to generate resources or funding or money, then people are limited in what they're capable of executing and doing because they don't have dollars to support it.
Yep.
And so I love your mindset, because this, I got to be real, this is an unstoppable mindset, is what you just had, FYI.
Yep.
Because the truth is you said, okay, you're going to take away and these people are going to resign. Well, I'm going to turn it and flip it and make it a positive. So not only will we get opportunities, but then we'll also move into leadership positions where we can influence the community.
Yep.
That's so powerful.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it changes everything, okay? That type of leadership. So the Bureau is a lot more diverse, obviously, than it ever, because it goes down. It trickles down.
Oh, yeah.
In that case, it trickles down. And we don't have enough of that. Because you have some people, I give a talk about the one and onlys. You have some people that get into leadership positions and they like being the sole whatever.
Right, right.
And that's very damaging to me.
Absolutely.
To them and to us, to everyone else. So anyway, so we're able to change that. So I decided to move to Arizona because being at the top, that's wonderful. I love Washington, D.C. It's a great city, but you don't make decisions. And
Sure.
As people know, maybe I'm a control freak, right? So you have a lot of control, yeah, but it's like, it's on a mega scale. So I was able to help them revise their budget and put more human resources issues together and things like that. And I manage some of the conflicts. I'm a very good conflict manager.
Sure.
So between the ranchers and the environmentalists,
Absolutely.
that was a big, so I was in the middle with that.
And you were helping facilitate conversations where their emotions and their anger and frustration, they weren't willing to talk. So you were helping to mitigate that.
Yeah, and the Bureau, I think, was nervous at the beginning having a woman in these kind of positions because they felt, cattle people, they're not going to put up that.
Sure.
I really had no problem with them.
Right.
Because, one, it's about you. Once they get to know you, it's fine.
Yes.
In fact, I sort of like, because they're very sincere about it. If they do like you,
Oh,
then
yeah.
they like you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
And so it was, and you always have a few of the radicals, and they're always good. It doesn't matter if I was white or black or anything else.
Right.
I was federal government, so you're always going to get those. But the others, it worked out just really well. I was not able to, of course, get the environmentalists and ranchers to solve the issues that
Sure.
we're still faced with, but it worked really well. So anyway, but I like to do things, get them done. So after a few years, I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll move. And that was earth-shattering back then because people would have killed to get that position.
Sure, sure,
But
sure.
you have to realize each person individual, it's what makes them happy, not what everybody feels should be happiness.
Well, and I'm going to jump in because, one of the things that, I think is important and we need to model for our next generation is we all have gifts, right? And you have gifts and you are showing your gifts to the world, but your location had ran its course and you had to make a transition so you can pretty much start brand new.
Yep. And Arizona, I had choice Arizona, California. I love California, but Arizona was newer, fresher, undergoing change. Oh, California's always undergoing change.
Yeah, California's a different beast now.
That's geology change. I know the Earth is still moving there. Here, and Bruce Babbitt, I worked for Bruce Babbitt back then.
Wow.
He was a former governor here.
Yeah.
He was back there.
Yeah.
And he was excited about me coming here because he said, Denise, they need change agents there in Arizona. So I was able to come here. My goal was to upgrade recreation because I'd asked people where to go camping, where to go hunting, fishing. None of them went in Arizona. They were going to California, New Mexico,
right.
Utah.
They was getting out of the state.
So because there was no, the state had no money, there was nothing happening, being cleaned up, built up. So I made partnerships where partnerships come in, which is so important about what you're doing. partnerships with the military.
Yep.
My dad is career Army, so I had a feeling for them. At the time, there were no wars that they were in, so they
Sure.
welcomed the opportunity to build things. So visitor
Right.
centers
Right.
and dams and water catchments, they loved doing that.
Which is a big deal.
It was, and that was great for the state. So I got to the point where, and that was my goal. And recreation is really now, I designated 4 national monuments.
Wow.
Got the Arizona Trail started or finished or something with that, which I worked with John McCain. The other thing, I'm an independent, so very bipartisan that way. So John McCain turned out to be one of my mentors, which was pretty awesome.
So I want to say 2 things, because one, the people who you are connected to are unbelievable, and that goes back to you connecting people, one. But then the other thing is you're a change agent at the highest level, because you realize that at the end of the day, unless we find ways to partner and build relationships, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over. So we got to find ways to do it differently. Can you speak on that for a moment?
Yeah, what I liked about Arizona moving here, it was very fresh, it was very new. People were very centered on community.
Community.
Okay? And that's one thing that we're losing rapidly here
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
One, of course, Phoenix is growing. It was a small town then, now it's the 5th, soon to be the 4th largest city in the United States.
It is.
So you have all these different people coming from other places, and it becomes interesting and actually more challenging
Right.
to work together.
Right.
But like we're here in the Better Business Bureau, that's
Right.
An example. I really believe in reaching out and supporting groups and working with groups that try to bring people together. So it's all kinds of organizations are a part of BBB. And so it's more of a challenge now, because I said John McCain was my mentor, and Republicans, Democrats, it wasn't, and even when I was back in D.C. way back when, they would both go blah, 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 blah.
Right.
They both had talking points, but behind the scenes, they would do what was right for the people.
Which is important.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Bringing home the bacon to the people, okay? And it seems to be lost right now in what we're doing. It's more about me.
Right.
It's more about the person themselves and what they want to be. But there's so many challenges to be solved, and so partnerships is going to be the only way we can do it.
Well, and one, I agree with everything that you're saying, and unfortunately, our society is about self-promotion. It's about what's in it for me, how can I benefit, and we got to shift our moral compass so that it's about people, because at the end of the day, it's got to be about people. So I want to finish out our conversation, and those who are watching, I really want you to understand what Denise has already done. I don't think you really understand. Like, she is a change agent, but she also is breaking barriers in so many ways. And I want her to take a moment to talk about the Black Chamber of Commerce, because I think that's important. And I know she's mentored a lot of people, but give us a quick overview so they can understand how invaluable this lady is.
Oh, well, thank you. And I'll begin and end actually with that. So the Black Chamber of Commerce started in 1998. So now I meet people who weren't even born when I started the Black Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
But that broke a lot of barriers here, because you go on the street and ask name a black business.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Nobody. And I used to get that. Why are we having a black chamber? There aren't any black businesses, and yeah, there are. So anyway, I got that started, and everybody really sucked on to that, because we had all the banks and all the corporations were involved. And that time was different. CEOs really took it on seriously. So it wasn't, they had to have diversity. Nobody was forcing them, but they saw the value of it.
Yeah.
They saw the future in it.
It's invaluable piece of society.
Yeah. And money, it's green. If you focus on the green, it's a different story.
Money changes the conversation.
So I did that I just did it for a year to get it started. Left them with 160 members. So first year we got 160 members and $100,000 in the bank, and a new leader who was very good at that time. But as most chambers, they go up and down, just depending on leadership.
Sure.
So right now they have a wonderful leader, Velma Traham is spectacular. I don't know, she sort of reminds me of me, actually, but because she's very forceful. She's
Oh yeah, she doesn't play. She doesn't play. I got a chance to meet her
Oh,
at
did you get finally?
Black
Okay.
Arizona, so
Oh,
I'm very
fantastic.
familiar.
Yeah, she doesn't mess around like I don't. And so she's going to do well. And hopefully one of the things I will have her involved as far as what I'm doing is the next generation. To me, we've probably missed people along the way here, but I think
Absolutely.
it's still an opportunity for us to change things for the better. Because I think the younger people understand it.
Absolutely.
After all these older people stop fighting with each other. But the younger people, I'm into sports. So my dad played amateur tennis, and we grew up right by Shea Stadium, loved baseball and stuff. So I've always been into sports. But so what I've always thought is athletes are overlooked. They're not. We just label people.
Right.
And you
We
can't
put them in a category, and that's it.
Yeah, and you can't get out of that. What is it saying? Shut up and dribble.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that whole
Right.
mentality.
Horrible,
Right.
horrible mindset.
Yeah. So we've wasted so much talent through the years, and that disturbs me. So what we're doing now is, I'm trying to do, is develop business education programs for college athletes and for their parents. It's
Right.
two different, there's two
Right.
different audiences there. So we're doing that. And then we're also working on the media side of it because, as you mentioned, the media is very important these days. You can't do without the media. So where we could highlight through video, through animation, through AI, whatever, the one history, I always like that people learn some of the history that's going on, if they can understand the talent that these young people you have.
Absolutely.
Right? And how it is. But I think, and we have the interest from, of course, universities are looking to attract more students to their university, but we're going to go straight to the students. So it's us, the students, and I'm excited about it. Most people I mention it to, they go, "Oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea."
Oh, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Because people have vaguely heard the statistics about NFL people going broke after
Sure.
3 years or whatever.
Sure.
The average, and people, and I'm trying to get more the information out, the average career now is less than 3.5 years in NFL, which that means you could be 24 and you're done.
And,
Right?
and as much as you are educating and teaching, if you don't have resources, it changes how people view you and the doors of opportunity that will be open.
Yes.
And so I want to say two things. First and foremost, you have been an unbelievable guest.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate everything that you just shared. Denis Meridith has really been leading the way, especially on the East Coast and now on the West Coast in Arizona. So, find ways to connect with her. Before we go, I want her to share with you her website so that you guys can tune in. And not only that, tune into what she's doing so we can build community, because at the end of the day, community is all we need. Please share your website.
Yeah. So the two I want people to look at is the world's best connectors. So that's www.thewbcs.com. And I like Marvel and stuff, so the WBCs. So the WBCs.com. And to find out more information about the students program, that's NILO Limited. So it's www.nilo, N-I-L-O. We put ownership into NIL. That's where we're going with that. So nilolimited.org. So if you go to those two websites, you'll see all the different things we have going, and hopefully you can join us.
I appreciate you so much.
Okay.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the University Through Adversity, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.